Listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you know about reality. Every single thing. Right now, as you're watching this, there are things moving in the darkness of Afghanistan's mountains. Things that our government desperately wants you to believe don't exist. Things that have been hunting soldiers for years. Things that took my entire team. I know because I've seen them. I've fought them. And I'm the only one from my team who lived to tell this story. Wait, before you click away thinking this is just another war story, let me show you something. This is my discharge paper. Honorable discharge, they called it. But look at the date, exactly 48 hours after our mission ended. Not a week, not a month for processing, 48 hours. They wanted me gone, silent, forgotten, erased from the system like I never existed. You know what else is interesting? My medical records from that day. Acute stress reaction. Recommends immediate discharge and psychiatric evaluation. I wasn't stressed. I was telling the truth, and they knew it. My name is Ghost. That's what my SEAL team called me. Petty Officer 2nd Class Miguel Garcia, but nobody called me that. And in exactly 7 minutes and 23 seconds into this video, you'll understand why that name saved my life when nothing else could have. Why being called Ghost meant I could see things others couldn't. Feel things before they happened. But first, let me take you back to that briefing room where it all started, where they sent 8 of America's finest warriors to hunt something that wasn't supposed to exist. Something that had already taken an entire recon team. Something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. October 15th, 2019. Forward Operating Base, Chapman, Afghanistan. 0300 hours. Picture this. You're sitting in a briefing room that smells like burnt coffee, gun oil, and fear. The kind of fear that experienced soldiers try to hide but can't quite shake. The air. Conditioning is broken again, so it's hot despite the early morning hour. Sweat beading on foreheads, hands drumming on tables. Commander Davies, a man who'd seen 3 tours in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, never flinched at anything. His hands were trembling as he clicked through the satellite images. I'd served under Davies for 2 years. I'd seen him coordinate airstrikes while under mortar fire without breaking a sweat. But that morning he looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "Gentlemen," he said, and his voice cracked. Actually cracked like a teenager's. "What you're about to see is classified beyond your current clearance level. By all rights, you shouldn't be seeing this. But desperate times." He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Now, let me tell you something about military briefings. They're usually boring. Mind-numbingly, soul-crushingly boring. PowerPoints about logistics, supply routes, rules of engagement. The same information recycled 1,000 different ways. But when a commander with 30 years of service, a man who'd been in Fallujah, Ramadi, the worst hellholes you can imagine, when that man can't keep his voice steady, every single one of us straightened up. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The first image appeared on screen. It showed a valley in the Hindu Kush Mountains. Satellite view, high resolution. Looked like 1,000 other valleys we'd operated in. Rocky, desolate, unforgiving terrain. Nothing special, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Davies zoomed in. "This is the Valley of Whispers, local name. The Afghans won't go near it. Haven't for centuries. They say it's cursed." He paused, rubbed his eyes. "We used to laugh at their superstitions." "Used to?" Hayes, our team leader, leaned forward. Big guy, 6'4", built like a linebacker, never showed fear. Steady as a rock in every firefight I'd seen him in. "Very wrong." Davies clicked to the next image. Thermal imaging. 3 weeks ago, we sent in a recon team, 7 men, call sign Vanguard. Their mission was simple: investigate unusual energy readings in the valley, possible new Taliban weapons cache. The thermal image showed 7 heat signatures, human-shaped, standing in a perfect circle in the middle of nowhere. No structures around them, no vehicles. Just 7 men standing in formation in the middle of a barren valley. "Sir," Hayes said slowly, "when was this image taken?" 72 hours ago, the room went silent. You could hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead. They'd been standing there for 3 days? Spectre, our sniper, finally asked. His voice was flat, emotionless as always, but I knew him well enough to hear the concern underneath. Davies clicked to the next image. Same thermal view, timestamp showing 6 hours later. The heat signatures had moved exactly 3 feet. All of them in perfect synchronization, like they were puppets on the same string. You feeling that chill down your spine? Good. That means you're paying attention. That means your instincts are working, because it gets so much worse, Doctor. Anya Sharma, CIA analyst, stood up from the corner where she'd been silently observing. She was young, maybe early 30s, but her eyes looked older. The kind of eyes that had seen classified things that kept her up at night. She pulled up her own presentation. We've detected electromagnetic anomalies in that valley. Frequencies that shouldn't exist. They're interfering with our satellites, our drones, everything electronic. We've lost 3 drones trying to get closer looks. They don't crash. They just stop transmitting. When we find them later, if we find them, their circuits are fused, melted from the inside out. EMP, asked Rook, our tech specialist. Young kid, barely 25, genius with anything that had a circuit board, could hack a satellite with a laptop and a satellite phone. But right now, he looked like a scared child. No, Sharma said. EMPs leave specific signatures. This is something else. The frequencies we're detecting, they're not random. They have patterns, mathematical sequences that repeat, like that familiar prickle at the base of my skull, that cold sensation spreading down my spine. See, they called me Ghost for a reason. Ever since I was a kid, I could sense things before they happened. Knew when my abuela was going to die 3 days before it happened. Knew which house in Fallujah had the IED before we entered. Saved my team's life more times than I could count. But this time, every instinct in my body, every fiber of my being was screaming, "Don't go, don't go, don't go." Like communication, Sharma finally said, the patterns match theoretical models for non-human communication. But that's impossible, of course. There has to be a logical explanation. Communication from what? Viper, our medic, always the practical one. Texan, built like a bull, steady hands that could stitch you up under fire. But those hands were clenched into fists now. That's what you're going to find out, Davies said. Your mission is to insert into the Valley of Whispers, locate Vanguard team, and investigate the source of these anomalies. Sir, I spoke up, my voice sounding strange in my own ears. The locals. What exactly do they say about this valley? Davies and Sharma exchanged a look. The kind of look that said they debated whether to share this information. They say it's where the jinn live, Sharma said quietly. Ancient spirits. They say that anyone who enters the valley either never returns or comes back changed. They say you can hear the whispers of the dead on the wind. Fairy tales, Davies said, but his voice lacked conviction. You have your orders. Wheels up in 2 hours. As we filed out of the briefing room, I caught Jenkins, our newest guy, fresh from BUD divided by S, eager to prove himself, looking at the thermal images still displayed on the screen. 7 men standing in a circle for 3 days. Ghost, he whispered. What do you think happened to them? I looked at those heat signatures, at their perfect formation, at the unnatural stillness of it all. And for the first time in my military career, I told another SEAL the truth. I think we're about to find out something we're going to wish we never knew. Now, before I continue, I need you to understand something. What would you do if your commanding officer ordered you into a situation that every cell in your body knew was wrong? Every instinct screaming danger? You'd go, right? Because that's what soldiers do. We follow orders. We trust the chain of command. We believe in the mission. But sometimes, orders lead you straight into hell. And sometimes, hell isn't fire and brimstone. Sometimes it's a cold valley in Afghanistan where the laws of physics don't apply anymore. The helicopter ride was silent. 6 of us, Hayes, our leader, Spectre sniper, never missed a shot, could put a bullet through a dime at 1,000 yards. Rook tech wizard, could make a radio out of spare parts and chewing gum. Viper medic, saved more lives than I could count. Jenkins the new guy, eager, talented, should have lived to see 30. And me. 6 of the Navy's finest, heading into what the locals called Durha de Whispers, the Valley of Whispers. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom as we approached. LZ coming up, weather's getting weird, thermals are all over the place. You sure about this? Just put us down. Hayes responded, but I heard the uncertainty in his voice. Want to know why they called it the Valley of Whispers? Neither did we. We thought it was just another local superstition, like how they wouldn't build on certain land or wouldn't drink from certain wells. We were about to find out how wrong we were, how catastrophically, terrifyingly wrong. The moment our boots hit the ground, everything felt wrong. You know that feeling when you're being watched? Multiply that by 1,000. No, 1,000,000. The air was thick, heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. The pressure made your ears pop every few seconds. And cold, but not normal cold. This was the kind of cold that seemed to come from inside your bones, like something was draining the heat right out of you. The helicopter lifted off, and as it disappeared over the ridge, the sound of its rotors faded unnaturally fast. Within seconds, we were surrounded by silence. Not quiet. The kind that makes you hear your own heartbeat, your own blood flowing through your veins. Comms check, Hayes ordered. We all responded, but our voices sounded muffled, distorted, like we were talking underwater. Ghost, take point, Hayes ordered. Everyone stay sharp. Something's not right here. I moved forward, rifle ready, every sense on high alert. The ground beneath our feet wasn't quite right either. It looked like regular Afghan dirt and rocks, but it felt different, softer somehow, like walking on flesh. 20 meters in, I found the first sign of Vanguard team. A boot. Just a boot. But here's the thing. It wasn't torn off, wasn't bloody. The laces were still tied in a perfect bow. It was sitting in the middle of the path like someone had carefully placed it there, like a breadcrumb, or a warning. Lieutenant, I called, my voice barely above a whisper. You need to see this. But when I turned around, my team was staring at something else. Tracks. But not human tracks. These were, Christ, how do I even describe them? Imagine someone took human footprints and stretched them, made them longer, thinner. The heel was where it should be, but the toes. The toes extended another 8 inches. And here's the part that still gives me nightmares. They had too many joints. Like whatever made them had extra segments in their feet. 7, maybe 8 joints where we have 2. Spectre knelt beside them, his usually emotionless face pale. Spectre had been in Delta before joining the SEALs. He'd seen things, done things that would break most men, but I'd never seen him show fear until now. These are fresh, maybe an hour old. And look, he pointed to the spacing between the prints. Whatever made these was taking 12-foot strides, walking, not running, walking. Following or followed? Hayes asked, scanning the rocky terrain around us. Before anyone could answer, Rook's equipment went haywire. Every single device started screaming. Different frequencies, different patterns, all at once. His radio, his GPS, his thermal scanner, even his digital watch, all going crazy. Then, just as suddenly, silence. Complete, absolute silence. Even the wind stopped. My grandmother used to tell me that when nature goes quiet, something unnatural is near. I used to think it was just old Mexican superstition. I don't think that anymore. That's when we heard it. The whisper. It started soft, so soft you weren't sure if you were hearing it or imagining it. Like wind through leaves, except there were no leaves. No vegetation at all. Just bare rock and that unnatural silence. Then it got louder, more distinct. But not clearer. It wasn't in English, wasn't in Dari or Pashto or Arabic or any language I recognized from 5 deployments. But somehow I understood it. It was calling my name, my real name. Not ghost, Not Garcia, not even Miguel. It was calling me Miguelito, my childhood nickname that only my dead grandmother knew. The name she whispered when she tucked me into bed. The name she used when she told me I was special, that I could see things others couldn't. The name that died with her 15 years ago. Did anyone else hear that? I whispered, my throat suddenly dry as sand. The look on their faces told me everything. They'd all heard something different, something personal, something that shouldn't be possible for anyone to know. Hayes had gone white as a sheet. It said my daughter's name. My daughter who died at birth. We never told anyone her name, not even our families. Rook was shaking. Binary code. It's speaking in binary code, but when I translate it in my head, it's the last thing my mother said before she died. Defensive positions, Hayes commanded, but his voice was shaking now. The unflappable Navy SEAL commander was rattled. Whatever this is, we treat it as hostile until proven otherwise. We formed a circle, backs to each other, weapons ready. The whispers grew louder, overlapping, creating a symphony of impossibilities. Secrets we'd never told, memories we'd buried, names of the dead, and then we saw them. How do I describe something that shouldn't exist? Something that violates everything you know about reality? Imagine a shadow that moves independently of light. Now imagine that shadow is three-dimensional. Now imagine it's watching you with eyes that aren't eyes, from a face that isn't a face. Imagine something that your brain refuses to process correctly, like those old magic eye pictures, but instead of seeing a dolphin, you're seeing your own death. They emerge from the rocks. No, that's not right. They didn't emerge. They were suddenly there, like they'd always been there and we just hadn't noticed. 7 feet tall, maybe 8. Thin but not weak. They moved like liquid smoke, flowing rather than walking. Their limbs had too many joints, bending in ways that made your stomach turn. And the worst part? They were partially transparent. You could see through them, but what you saw on the other side was different. Distorted. Like looking through water. If water could think and hate, the landscape behind them was wrong. Twisted, darker, showing things that weren't there. Or maybe showing things that were always there, just hidden from our limited perception. "Contact front!" Spectre shouted, raising his rifle. His voice was steady, professional, but I could see his hands trembling slightly. Spectre's hands never trembled. "Hold fire!" Hayes commanded. "We don't know if they're hostile. They might be locals. Some kind of camouflage. But we all knew they weren't locals, weren't human, weren't anything that belonged in our understanding of the world." That's when one of them moved. Fast. Faster than anything should be able to move. 1 second, it was 50 meters away. The next, it was right in front of Jenkins. Jenkins. Shit. I should tell you more about Jenkins. 23 years old, from Iowa. Joined the Navy to pay for college. Ended up falling in love with the teams. Had a girlfriend back home named Sarah. Was going to propose when this deployment ended. Had the ring in his footlocker. Kid could shoot the wings off a fly and swim like a fish. Should have had his whole life ahead of him. The shadow figure didn't touch him. It just stood there, inches from his face. And Jenkins started screaming. Not in pain, but in absolute primal terror. The kind of scream that comes from the very core of your being when your mind encounters something it can't process. His eyes rolled back, showing only white. Foam appeared at his mouth. His body started convulsing. And then, and I swear to God this is true, I don't care if you believe me, he started dissolving. Not melting, dissolving. Like he was made of sand and someone had turned on a fan. Starting from his extremities, his fingers, his toes, working inward. He was looking right at me as it happened, his mouth moving, trying to form words. I think he was trying to say, "Help me." But there was no helping him. Within 30 seconds, Jenkins was gone. Not dead. Gone. No body, no blood, no sign he'd ever existed except for his gear falling to the ground where he'd stood. "Open fire! Open fire!" We lit them up. Hundreds of rounds. Perfect shots from trained killers. Every bullet hit its target, and every bullet passed right through like they weren't there. No impact, no effect, like shooting at smoke. But here's where it gets interesting, and why you're still watching this video instead of clicking away. The bullets that passed through them, some were backwards, the mushroom tips facing forward. Some were inside out. Yeah, I know how that sounds. I don't care, it's what happened. Some came out as different calibers entirely. Rook fired 5.56 NATO rounds. What came out the other side were 7.62 Soviet rounds from the 1,960 seconds. One of Spectre's bullets came out the other side. Good, because I'm about to tell you something that the government has killed people to keep secret, and I mean that literally. 3 journalists who got too close to this story died in accidents within a week of each other. 2 soldiers who tried to go public had suicides. Take a second. Check your doors. Make sure you're alone, because once you know this, you can't unknow it, and knowing it makes you a target. We retreated. What else could we do? We ran like scared children, these big bad Navy SEALs who'd faced Taliban, ISIS, the worst humanity had to offer. We ran from shadows, but they didn't chase us. That would have been too simple, too normal. They herded us, guided us, pushed us towards something. Every time we tried to go left, one would appear on our left. They were shepherds, and we were sheep being driven to slaughter. But the slaughterhouse wasn't what we expected. That something was a cave. But calling it a cave is like calling the ocean a puddle. This thing was massive, carved into the mountain, but not by any tool we recognized. The entrance was perfectly circular, 50 feet in diameter. The edges were smooth as glass and covered in symbols that hurt to look at. Not metaphorically, literally. Look at them too long and your eyes would start bleeding. Rook looked for 30 seconds and blood started running down his cheeks like tears. The symbols weren't just carved, they were moving, shifting, rearranging themselves as we watched, like they were alive. Like they were trying to tell us something our brains couldn't understand. "We need to go in," Hayes said, and his voice sounded wrong. Mechanical, like he was reading from a script. "Are you insane?" Viper grabbed his arm. "That's exactly where they want us to go." Hayes turned to look at him, and for a second, just a second, his eyes weren't his. They were black, completely black. Then he blinked, and they were normal again. "We have a mission. Find Vanguard team." Rook held up his scanner. The thing was going crazy, displays showing impossible readings. "Lieutenant, Vanguard's signatures are coming from inside. They're still standing in that circle. Still the same temperature. Still alive, technically." "Technically?" I asked. "Their hearts are beating once every 10 minutes. Their brain activity, island. It's not human anymore. It's something else. Something more or less. I can't tell." We entered. God help us, we entered that cave. The tunnel system was ancient, older than Islam, older than Christianity, older than any human civilization should be in these mountains. Carbon dating would later suggest, in the reports that were immediately classified and destroyed, that these tunnels were over 200,000 years old. Older than Homo sapiens should have existed in this region. The walls were smooth, too smooth, like they'd been melted into shape by impossible heat, but they were cold to the touch, ice cold, and they hummed. A low-frequency vibration that you felt in your bones, in your teeth, in your soul. The symbols were everywhere, on the walls, the ceiling, the floor, moving, shifting, telling a story we couldn't read but somehow understood. A story of things that came before, things that would come after, things that existed outside our narrow slice of reality. Rook set up his equipment, trying to translate them. His computer started smoking within minutes, processors overheating, trying to process the patterns. But he managed to extract something before they died. "These aren't decorations," he said, his voice hollow, empty. "They're warnings and instructions." "Instructions for what?" Hayes demanded, but even he sounded scared now. "For keeping something contained. Something that's been here for Jesus Christ. According to this, it's been here for millions of years. Before humans, before mammals, before Earth should have been able to support complex life. That's when we found them. Vanguard team, all 7 of them standing in a perfect circle around something. Their eyes were open but unseeing. Pupils dilated to the point where their entire eyes looked black. Their bodies were rigid, locked in place, but their hair and clothes moved like they were underwater, like they were in a different medium than we were, and they were humming. All of them, the same frequency, the same tone, a sound that made your teeth ache and your vision blur. In the center of their circle was a sphere, black but not black. It was like looking at a hole in reality, a wound in the fabric of space-time, and it was growing, pulsing with each hum from the Vanguard team. With each pulse, the shadow figures around us grew more solid, more real. I approached one of the Vanguard soldiers, Peterson, according to his name tape. I reached out to touch him, to see if we could break whatever hold this thing had on him. The moment my finger made contact with his shoulder, I saw everything. I saw the birth of the universe, the death of stars, civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds, and I saw Earth. Not our Earth, different Earths, thousands of them, millions, all existing in the same space, separated by membranes thinner than atoms. And I saw what the sphere was. It's a doorway, I said, and I don't know how I knew, but I did. The knowledge was just there, downloaded directly into my brain like a computer file. They're using Vanguard to open a doorway. To where? Hayes asked. Before I could answer, one of the Vanguard team turned his head. Just his head, the body stayed frozen. The movement was mechanical, unnatural, accompanied by the sound of cracking bones. His mouth opened, and a voice that wasn't his spoke. It was multiple voices, thousands of them, all speaking in perfect unison. To home. We're going home, and you're going to help us. What happened next? I've never told anyone. Not the debriefers, not the psychiatrists, not even my family. The report I signed said we encountered cave-ins and hostile forces. That was a lie. But the truth is so much worse. The shadow figures began to solidify completely. As they did, we could finally see them clearly. And I wish to God we hadn't. They weren't aliens. They weren't demons. They were us, or what we become. Future humans, evolved or devolved beyond recognition, trying to escape from whatever hellish timeline they'd created. Their bodies were wrong because they'd spent generations in a place where physics worked differently, where evolution had taken a different path. Their extra joints, their impossible height, their transparency, all adaptations to a world that shouldn't exist. I could see it in their faces, or what passed for faces. The bone structure was human, just stretched, distorted, like someone had taken a human skull and pulled it like taffy. Their eyes, they had too many eyes. Not just two, dozens scattered across their heads, all blinking independently, all showing different emotions: fear, desperation, hunger, rage. The sphere wasn't a doorway to another place. It was a doorway to another another timeline, one where humanity had made different choices, wrong choices. You have to stop them, one of the Vanguard team suddenly gasped, breaking free for just a moment. It was Sergeant Collins, their team leader. His eyes cleared for a second, became human again. They're fleeing something worse. If they come through, it follows. The Devourer. It follows. Then his eyes went black again, and he returned to the humming. Hayes made a decision, the kind of decision that defines a man or destroys him. He pulled out a block of C4, then another, then another. Rook, can you overload that thing? Turn their own doorway against them? Maybe, but the energy release would do it. What followed was 20 minutes of pure chaos. The shadow figures, the future humans, attacked, not physically but mentally. They pushed into our minds, showing us things. Our deaths played out in vivid detail. Not just one death, every possible death, across every possible timeline. I saw myself die thousands of times. Shot, stabbed, drowned, burned, aged to dust, torn apart by things that don't exist yet. Each death felt real. The pain was real. They showed us our failures. Every mistake we'd ever made, ever would make, could make. They showed us the people we'd failed to save, the lies we'd told, the loves we'd lost. Spectre started crying. I'd never seen him show any emotion before. 6 years together, and I'd never seen him smile, frown, nothing. But now he was on his knees, sobbing like a child, apologizing to someone named Maria. His sister, I learned later. She died when he was supposed to be watching her. He was 8. She was 3. Drowned in the family pool while he was inside playing video games. Viper was on his knees, apologizing to people who weren't there. Patients he'd lost. Fellow soldiers he couldn't save. His hands, those steady surgeon's hands, were shaking so badly he couldn't hold his weapon. But I was different. Remember, they called me Ghost for a reason. I could see beyond the illusions. And I saw the truth, the real truth. These things were desperate. They were running from something so terrible that they were willing to destroy our timeline to escape it. They developed technology, opened doorways between realities, and something had noticed, something vast, something hungry. And that something, it was already starting to seep through. Behind the shadow figures, in the space between spaces, I saw it. An eye. Just an eye. But it was the size of the entire cave, and it was looking at us with an intelligence so vast, so alien, that my mind couldn't process it. It wasn't malevolent. That would imply it cared about us enough to wish us harm. It was simply hungry. We were less than ants to it. We were atoms. Particles to be consumed and converted to energy. It was the end of everything. The devourer of timelines. The thing that waits between realities, feeding on entire universes. And we'd almost let it in. Rook, now! Rook's hands flew over his equipment, jerry-rigging something from spare parts in the shadow figure's own energy. He was crying, blood running from his nose, his ears. But he didn't stop. His fingers moved faster than humanly possible, like something else was working through him. The explosion wasn't physical. It was something else. Reality twisted, folded, screamed. The cave walls bent inward, then outward, then existed in both states simultaneously. Time ran backward, forward, sideways. I aged 50 years in a second, then was 20 again, then hadn't been born yet, then was already dead. The shadow figures were pulled back into their sphere, their faces, if you could call them faces, twisted in despair. They'd failed to escape. We'd condemn them to whatever fate they were running from. Condemn them to be devoured along with their entire timeline. But here's the thing, and this is why I can't sleep, why I see them every time I close my eyes. Just before the portal collapsed, one of them looked at me, really looked at me, not with those scattered eyes, but with something deeper, a consciousness that transcended physical form, and it mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." Then it reached out, touched my forehead with one impossibly long finger, and I understood. They weren't thanking us for saving our timeline. They were thanking us for ending their suffering, for giving them the mercy of oblivion instead of an eternity running from the devourer. In that touch, I saw their history, their Earth. They were us, 10,000 years in the future. They'd advanced, evolved, transcended physical form, but in doing so, they'd weakened the barriers between realities, and the devourer had found them. They'd been running for generations, timeline to timeline, each jump making them less human, more desperate. They'd become the very monsters they'd once feared. And now, finally, it was over. The portal collapsed with a sound like reality itself tearing. The Vanguard team collapsed too, finally free from whatever had held them. All dead. They'd been dead for days, their bodies kept animate by the shadow figure's will. We lost 3 men in that cave. Jenkins, dissolved into nothing. Spectre, his mind completely gone, catatonic, locked in whatever nightmare the shadow figures had shown him. He hasn't spoken a word since that day. Just sits in a psychiatric ward, drawing the same symbol over and over. The eye. Always the eye. And Hayes. Hayes stayed behind to make sure the charges sealed the cave. He knew too much. We all knew too much. But Hayes knew that someone had to make sure it was contained. Permanently. His last words to me were, "Tell my wife I loved her. Tell her I died in combat. Don't tell her the truth. Let her think I died a hero, not this." The extraction was waiting for us. Too fast, too convenient. They knew, they'd always known. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. We were just the latest cleanup crew. Back at base, the debriefing was a joke. Commander Davies, Dr. Sharma, and 3 men I'd never seen before. No uniforms, no insignia, but they had that look. You know the one. The look of people who make problems disappear. Black suits, dead eyes, hands that never shook. "You encountered a cave-in," one of them said. It wasn't a question. Unstable geology. Tragic loss of life. Heroic rescue of surviving Vanguard members. Surviving? Viper laughed, bitter and broken. They're vegetables. Whatever those things did to them, combat stress, severe PTSD, treatable with time. "That's not what happened," I said. The man looked at me with dead eyes. "Yes, it island, and you're going to sign a document saying exactly that, or you'll be diagnosed with acute psychosis. Your family will be told you had a mental breakdown. You'll spend the rest of your life in a padded room, screaming about shadows that don't exist." They gave us a choice. Sign the amended report, take early retirement with full benefits, never speak of this again, or, well, they didn't need to spell out the or. We signed. Of course we signed. What choice did we have? But here's what they didn't know. I kept something, a piece of evidence. Rook had been recording everything on a microdrive, something he'd hidden in his gear. Military-grade encryption, hidden in a dead spot in his armor that wouldn't show up on scans. Before they searched us, before they separated us for individual debriefings, he palmed it to me. "This is it. This tiny drive contains 3 hours of footage from inside that cave. The shadow figures, the portal, the truth about what's out there, or rather, what's trying to get here. Everything I've told you, I can prove it, every word." 2 weeks after our discharge, Viper was found dead. "Suicide," they said, "single gunshot to the head." But I saw the body. I was the one who found him. Those weren't self-inflicted wounds. The angle was wrong. And there were dissolution marks on his hands. The same patterns we saw on Jenkins. Like something had started to take him, then changed its mind. His apartment was destroyed. Not ransacked. Destroyed. Furniture turned to dust. Electronics melted. And on every wall, drawn in what looked like ash but tested as unknown organic matter, were those symbols from the cave, thousands of them. He'd been trying to decode them, trying to understand. His final note, if you can call it that, was just one line. "They're still here." Rook disappeared entirely. His apartment was empty, but all his electronics were fried, melted from the inside out. His computers, his phones, even his smart TV, all destroyed by heat that came from within. The official report says he skipped town, went AWOL. But I know better. I found one thing they missed, a hidden camera he'd set up, paranoid after everything that happened. The footage shows him working at his computer, trying to decrypt more of the data from the cave. Then the shadows in his room start moving. Independent of any light source, they surround him. He doesn't run, he doesn't scream. He just looks at them and says, "I understand now." Then he walks into the shadows and disappears. Not out the door, into the shadows themselves. The timestamp jumps. 12 hours pass in one frame. And he's gone. Me? I've been running, city to city, country to country. But they follow me. Not the government. They think I'm handled. The shadow figures. They're still here, still watching. They failed to open their doorway, but they didn't go away. They're waiting. planning. I see them everywhere now. In the corner of my eye, in reflections, in the spaces between spaces. They're not aggressive, not anymore. They just watch and wait, like they're expecting something. And here's the real kicker. Remember that eye I saw? That massive, impossible thing they were running from? I've been doing research. Deep web, ancient texts, documents that should have been destroyed centuries ago. The Vatican's secret archives. The Library of Alexandria, the real one, the one that wasn't destroyed. It all points to the same thing. It has a name. In every culture, in every hidden history, the same name appears. The devourer of timelines, the hunger between, the inevitable end. It's been known by 1,000 names across 1,000 civilizations. And according to everything I've found, it's not a question of if it arrives, it's when. The shadow figures weren't invaders. They were refugees, and we sent them back to their doom. But in doing so, we might have saved our timeline, or we might have just delayed the inevitable. Because here's the thing, every advanced civilization eventually discovers the barriers between realities, and every one that does attracts its attention. The devourer. It's happened before. It'll happen again. Want to know the really scary part? Last night, I found another report. Classified, but I have my ways. 3 days ago, a team of Chinese special forces went missing in the Kunlun Mountains. The last transmission mentioned impossible shadows and symbols that hurt to look at. 2 weeks before that, a Russian Spetsnaz unit in Siberia. Same story. A month before that, British SAS in Scotland. It's happening all over the world. Different countries, different teams, but the same entities. The same attempt to escape, which means either there are more doorways or... Did you hear that? They know I'm recording this. They always know. But here's what they don't understand. I'm not afraid anymore. You know why? Because I've figured something out. The shadow figures, the future humans, whatever they are, they kept saying not ours, not human, about the thing chasing them. But they were wrong. It is human. Or rather, it's what humanity becomes if we keep playing with forces we don't understand. Every military, every government, they're all finding these doorways, these connection points between timelines. And every time we interact with them, we're creating the very future these entities are trying to escape from. We're creating our own doom, our own evolution into those desperate shadows. It's a closed loop. We discover the doorways. We attract the devourer. We evolve to escape it. We become the shadow figures. We try to escape to the past. We're stopped by our past selves. The cycle continues. So why am I telling you this? Why risk everything to put this out there? Because you need to know. When you see the news reports about training accidents in remote locations, when entire special forces teams go missing, when satellite communications mysteriously fail over specific coordinates, you'll know what's really happening. The governments of the world are playing with something they don't understand. They think they're investigating anomalies. They think they're securing tactical advantages. They're actually poking holes in reality itself. But more importantly, I need you to understand something about the nature of reality itself. We think of time as a line, past to future, cause to effect. But that's not how it works. Time is a web, and every decision, every action creates vibrations that travel both forward and backward. The shadow figures, they're us from a timeline where we discovered this truth too late, where we opened too many doors, made too many connections, and attracted the attention of something that exists between timelines, something that feeds on reality itself. Think about it. Every ghost story, every tale of monsters in the dark, every legend of things that shouldn't exist, they're all true. They're all glimpses of other timelines bleeding through. The barriers have always been weak in certain places. The Valley of Whispers was one, but there are others, hundreds of them. The Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea, the Michigan Triangle, Skinwalker Ranch, Area 51. They're all the same phenomenon. Weak points where realities touch, where things can cross over. And here's the truly terrifying part. It's not just one timeline. Every possible future where Humanity discovers these doorways ends the same way. The devourer finds us. Unless we stop looking. Unless we seal every doorway, destroy every record, forget everything we've learned about what lies beyond our dimension. It's the only timeline where humanity survives. The only one where we don't become those desperate shadows trying to escape to the past. But we won't, will we? We're too curious, too ambitious, too stupid to leave well enough alone. Right now, as you're watching this, there are probably a dozen military operations investigating similar anomalies. Scientists detecting unusual energy signatures. Archaeologists uncovering symbols that predate human civilization. Each discovery brings us closer to the moment when we become the very things I encountered in that cave. The moment when we realize we've doomed ourselves and tried desperately to escape to the past, only to be stopped by soldiers like me who don't understand what they're really doing. The irony is perfect, isn't it? We stop our future selves from escaping, dooming them, and eventually ourselves to the same fate. The snake eating its own tail. The perfect temporal paradox. I haven't slept in 3 days. Every time I close my eyes, I see Hayes. Not how he was, but how he is now. You see, he didn't die in that cave. Not exactly. Last week I went back to Afghanistan, unofficial, off the books. I had to know what happened to the cave, to the doorway we thought we'd sealed. The entire valley is gone. Not destroyed, gone. Satellite images show normal terrain, but when you stand there, when you're actually there, it's just empty space. A void in reality that your eyes refuse to see properly. Your brain tries to fill it in with what should be there, but it can't. It's like a blind spot in the universe itself. But Hayes is there, or something wearing his face. It spoke to me, told me things, showed me things. The doorway wasn't closed. It was inverted. Instead of them coming here, it's pulling us there. Slowly, one person at a time, starting with those who were exposed to its energy. Viper wasn't killed, he was harvested, pulled into that other timeline to replace one of the entities trying to escape. Rook 2, a cosmic balance that has to be maintained. For every shadow that tries to escape, one of us gets pulled in to take their place, and I'm next. I can feel it pulling at me, especially at night. The edges of my vision are starting to blur, showing me glimpses of that other place. That dying timeline where the sky is the color of old blood and the shadows have shadows. Look, these marks? They started appearing 3 days ago. The same symbols from the cave, but they're growing, spreading, starting at my fingertips, working their way up my arms. My body is becoming a doorway, a living portal between realities. The doctors say it's a tattoo, that I did it to myself. But watch. See? They just moved. Rearranged themselves while you were watching. They're not ink. They're something else. Something that exists partially in our reality and partially in theirs. Dr. Sharma contacted me yesterday, unofficially of course. She's been tracking similar cases worldwide. 17 soldiers from different countries, all showing the same symptoms, all having encountered similar entities, all being slowly pulled into another timeline. She has a theory. The shadow figures aren't from our future, they're from our past. A previous iteration of humanity that discovered these truths millions of years ago. Earth has been inhabited before, many times. Each civilization eventually discovers the doorways. Each one attracts the devourer. Each one tries to escape. Each one fails. We're not the first human civilization. We're just the latest in an endless cycle. The pyramids, Stonehenge, the Nazca lines, all remnants of previous attempts to seal or control the doorways. All failures. The fossil record doesn't show it because these civilizations existed in slightly balaments, different timelines, parallel Earths that occasionally intersect with ours. When they do, we get artifacts that shouldn't exist, technologies that are too advanced, structures that are impossible. But this time, something's different. This time, someone is documenting it, spreading the truth. Maybe, just maybe, if enough people know, If enough people refuse to participate in the cover-up, we can break the cycle. Or maybe I'm just accelerating it. Maybe by telling you this, I'm causing the very future I'm trying to prevent. Maybe you'll go looking for doorways. Maybe you'll find one. Maybe you'll open it. God, I hope not. So here's where you come in. Yes, you, the person watching this video. You have 3 choices. 1. Dismiss this as fiction. Close the video, go about your life, pretend you never heard any of this. This is what 99% of you will do, and honestly, you'll be happier for it. Ignorance isn't just bliss. In this case, it might be survival. 2. Believe it and be paralyzed by fear. Let the knowledge that reality is far stranger and more dangerous than you imagined consume you. Some of you will do this, and I'm sorry. I truly am. The weight of this knowledge, it breaks people. I've seen it. 3. Believe it and act. Share this video before it's removed. Ask questions when military teams go missing. Demand transparency when geological anomalies are reported. Don't let them bury the truth again. Force the world to confront what's coming. Because here's the thing, the shadow figures, the devourer, the doorways, they're all real. But so is our ability to change course, to refuse to open doors that should remain closed, to break the cycle that's trapped countless versions of humanity. But it requires something we're not good at. It requires us to stop, to choose ignorance, to walk away from knowledge, and we've never been good at that. They're here now, outside my window. Not the government, they gave up on me weeks ago, the shadow figures. Dozens of them, waiting. They know my transformation is almost complete. Soon, I'll be pulled through, another soul to replace those trying to escape. But I'm not afraid anymore. You know why? Because I finally understand my purpose. I'm not just Ghost, the Navy SEAL who could sense danger. I'm Ghost, the messenger, the one who breaks the silence, the one who ensures this story survives even when I don't. Every civilization needs its Cassandra, the one who sees the truth and screams it to a world that won't listen. I'm yours. This video will upload automatically in 30 seconds. They can't stop it. Too many backup servers, too many contingencies. Rook taught me well before he disappeared. Quantum encryption, distributed across 1,000 servers. Even I don't know where they all are. To my fellow SEALs still serving, when you encounter something impossible, remember this video. Remember that some doors should stay closed. Remember Jenkins. Remember Hayes. Remember that courage isn't about facing the enemy. Sometimes it's about walking away. To the families of Vanguard Team, your loved ones were heroes. They held the line against something unimaginable. Their sacrifice gave us time. Maybe not much, but time. To Hayes, wherever or whenever you are now, I understand why you stayed behind. Someone had to make sure it was contained. Even if containing it meant becoming part of it. You always were the best of us. And to you, watching this, the next time you're alone at night and feel like you're being watched, you probably are. But they're not hunting you. They're warning you. Listen to them. Turn back. Don't seek out the doorways. Because once you see what's on the other side, once you understand what we're all destined to become, there's no going back. There's only the endless cycle of escape and failure, predator and prey, past and future colliding in an eternal loop of cosmic horror. Time's up. The upload is complete. They're coming through the walls now, reaching for me, with hands that aren't hands, pulling me toward a tomorrow that's already yesterday. My name was Ghost. I was a Navy SEAL. I fought shadows in Afghanistan, and I lost. But maybe, just maybe, you won't have to. Remember, the only way to win is not to play.
This is Dr. Anya Sharma, former CIA analyst. If you're watching this addendum, it means the primary video has been viewed over 1 million times and the automatic trigger has activated. Ghost, Petty Officer Miguel Garcia, disappeared 17 hours after uploading his testimony. His apartment was found empty, but the walls were covered in those symbols. They're not random. Their coordinates, locations around the world where similar incidents have occurred or will occur. Beijing, Moscow, London, New York, Los Angeles, Cairo, Sydney, São Paulo. The pattern forms a geometric shape when plotted on a globe, a shape that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. It's happening everywhere. I'm uploading these coordinates now, not so you can visit them. God, please don't visit them, but so you can monitor them. Watch for military activity, document everything, create a record that can't be destroyed. The shadow figures Ghost described? We've identified them. They're designated as temporal refugees, entities displaced from their native timeline, our timeline, just not our present. They're what we become, what we've always become, what we will always become. The creature they're fleeing from, what Ghost called the Devourer? We have no designation for it because officially it doesn't exist. But unofficially, those of us who know call it the inevitable, because that's what it is, the inevitable result of humanity's curiosity exceeding its wisdom. Every advanced civilization reaches this point. The point where they discover the nature of time isn't linear, but circular, where they realize every timeline is connected, and what destroys one threatens all. Ghost was right about one thing: we're trapped in a cycle, but he was wrong about breaking it. The cycle can't be broken because it's not a flaw, it's a feature. It's how the universe prevents paradoxes, how it maintains causality across infinite timelines. The shadow figures will keep trying to escape. We'll keep stopping them, and eventually we'll become them, trying to escape to our own past, only to be stopped by those who don't understand what they're doing. But knowledge is power, and now you have that knowledge. Use it wisely, or better yet, forget you ever saw this video. Forget Ghost's story. Forget my words, because in the end, the only way to win this game is not to play. One last thing. If you're experiencing missing time, if you're seeing symbols in your peripheral vision, if shadows seem to move independently of their light source, you've been marked. The process has begun. You have approximately 72 hours before translation. There's no cure, no escape, only acceptance. But there might be a way to delay it. Stay in bright light. Avoid shadows. Don't sleep. The translation happens in the spaces between consciousness, in the moments when your guard is down. And whatever you do, don't look for the doorways. Don't research the symbols. Don't try to understand. Because understanding is what opens you to them. Knowledge is the key, and curiosity is the hand that turns it. Ghost thought he was warning you, but every warning is also an invitation. Every closed door begs to be opened. Every secret demands to be known. Welcome to the real war, the one that never ends. The one we've already lost. The one we keep fighting anyway, because what else can we do? End transmission. Ghost's upload has been viewed 2.3 million times. 17 new cases of translation reported worldwide. 43 missing special forces teams across 12 nations. The cycle continues.